brings the future to the present. What are you believing for right now? Faith is the confidence that what we hope for will actually happen. When we're walking in faith, we're walking in confidence. What's your confidence like about your children and their walk with God and how they're going to fulfill their destiny? What's your confidence like about your resources and how God's going to provide your need? What's your confidence like about your legacy and your impact? Because when we are living in faith, we are living in confidence. How many people believe it this morning? Faith, number one, brings the future to the present. Number two, it embraces impossibility. Without faith, Hebrews 11:6, it's impossible to please God. You know what I've found? God will bring us up to walls that are closed. Walls that are closed and gates, walls that are high and gates that are closed over and over again. You had to use your faith 18 months ago for a massive breakthrough, and you thought, glad I'm done with that. That was a lot. But then all of a sudden you find yourself in the face of another impossibility. But let me tell you something, God will never call us to do something possible because the possible doesn't require Him. God will invite us to do something impossible because it demands He get involved. And I have found that in my journey of following Jesus, He will take me into successive Red Sea type moments where there's no way forward and there's no way backward. It's impossible in front, it's impossible behind you. It's impossible on every side. But in those moments, we have a decision to make. Do we get bitter? Do we resent the impossibility? Let me tell you something, God's not going to respond to our worry. God's not going to respond to our complaints. But how many people are grateful God's going to respond to our faith? And when we reframe our thinking to say, Lord, thank you for trusting me with the impossible, it actually pleases God. It pleases Him. So the third thing that happens for the one who believes is they never give up. I love the story of the man named Bartimaeus because it says he was on the roadside begging. Verse 47, when he heard that Jesus was coming, he began to shout, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. Check this out. But he shouted all the more. Then Jesus said, call to him, cheer him up. On your feet, he's calling you. And he threw his cloak aside, jumped to his feet, and began to run. Jesus said, what do you want me to do for you? And the blind man said, Rabbi, that I can see. Jesus said, go, your faith has healed you. I love that when they told him to be quiet, he doubled down. See, faith doesn't give up. When it starts to look less likely, faith doubles down. Faith gets more aggressive. Faith turns us up to another level of aggressive pursuit. Hebrews 10:36, you need to persevere. I want you to say that with me this morning. You need to persevere. Say that with me. You need to persevere. See, we are not in faith if we are not persevering. You need to persevere so that after you've done the will of God, you will receive. I wish I could tell you this morning that faith is easy. I wish I could tell you this morning that it's just a big party following Jesus. But the words that I read in the Bible are words like perseverance. 1 Timothy 6:12, fight the good fight of faith. Paul says we're running a race. There's words like fight. There's words like race. There's words like persevere. And living by faith means we're going to continue to push. We're going to continue to press. But how many people are grateful on the other side of our perseverance, we receive what God has promised? Is anybody ready to receive this morning all the promises of God over your life, over your children, over your future? I'll never forget, after doing so much work internationally, we felt God calling us to America. And our first major outreach was in Los Angeles. And we had these bold vision. We wanted to use a tier 1, we wanted to use a an iconic stadium, and we were the second event ever at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, the number one venue in America. We wanted to partner with a tier 1 artist. And I was dealing with our production director 3 months before the event. It was just coming out of COVID. We were only allowed to contract for 33% occupancy in the stadium because of all the restrictions coming out, and most artists weren't touring, and it was hard to get our headliner. And I wanted to have an iconic night where we didn't just reach the people in the stadium, but the stadium became a studio because there was viral content from the night. And we're talking with our production director, and he said, Dominic team, who is your main talent? Who's the headliner? We said, we'll let you know. They said, you can't wait anymore. We're losing our subcontractors, our camera operators, our audio engineers. Like, if you don't give us your headliner by tomorrow, we're walking. He does the biggest music festivals in the year in the world, like Coachella and Stagecoach and all these massive festivals. I said, David, check it out. You're the best in class in production. That's what you're good at. But I'm going to ask you to give us not a day, 1 week. And let us do what we do. We have learned to be good at trusting God. We're going to trust God for these 7 days. And on day 7, if you don't have an answer, you can walk. He said, I think you're crazy, but deal. So 7 days later, we came back and we said, David, we've got great news. The number 1 pop star in the world, Justin Bieber, is going to headline the event. And he said, oh my goodness, there must be a God. That is unbelievable. Little did we know that Justin would be the headliner, that he would share his testimony, that he would talk about how he was going to die, but Jesus changed his life. And the whole place would be moved by God's power and God's presence. And this content is still going viral by the tens of millions 3 years later. How many people know it's worth the perseverance? I'll never forget that moment in Peru. 3 days before One Nation, One Day Peru that you just saw, they issued, or the news hit, that they were making it to the world finals in soccer. And you probably can appreciate when that happens in Peru, the nation shuts down. The restaurants shut down, everybody's at home, everybody's watching the game, and literally they were set to play the game at the exact hour of our events across the country. And we're like, oh my goodness, we have worked for 2 years to set up One Nation, One Day. And now the whole country is not going to come to the stadiums because they're going to be watching the game. And we had no more what felt like energy to give. But one more time we said, Lord, what's the strategy? And the idea came. We brokered a licensing agreement with the number 1 content provider in Peru. And we said, would you let us display the games in all the stadiums? And in 72 hours, we had brokered the relationship where we were able to stream the championship in all the stadiums. In Monumental Stadium in Lima, it was filled. We had to close the doors. They won in overtime. It was electric. And right out of that massive soccer championship, we came in, did a few songs, gave the altar call, and 22,000 people in just Lima alone stood to their feet to accept Christ. Somebody say perseverance. I'm going to give you one more story. We were in the journey of doing One Day Houston, our outreach in Houston. And all the stadiums were having COVID reschedules because they canceled shows for 2 years. So every Saturday we wanted to do, there was 7 or 8 holds. And I thought, Lord, we've already launched the vision to hundreds of churches. We've already told the city we're going to do a massive stadium event. And now we have no venue. We were so disappointed. After 6 months, we got no's from the Astros Stadium, no's from where the Texans play, NRG Stadium. And we were about to quit, and we called our staff together. We said, guys, remember what Jesus told his mother? Go get the jugs of water. I'm going to do a miracle. Just prepare for it. And oftentimes, that's what God will ask us to do. When he was about to feed the 5,000, he said, get into groups. He tore the loaf. He gave thanks. He began to set in motion his faith practically. We said, guys, let's get our faith up again that God's going to do something. 2 weeks later, we got a call. The president of the stadium where the Houston Rockets play, they said, we're going to give you the stadium, the Toyota Center, not just for one night, but for two. And at zero rental costs, we're waiving the fees. We want to make this a gift for all the good work you're doing here in Houston. See, I'm telling you the stories because we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. I'm telling you these stories because God's no respecter of persons. I believe that heaven has scheduled miracles for you the fourth quarter of 2024. Miracles in November, miracles in December, miracles in 2025, miracles in 2026, miracles in 2027, miracles in 2028. I'm talking about bumping into miracles everywhere you turn. If you're hungry for God to divinely intervene on your behalf, I want you to get your faith up this morning because all things are possible, not to anyone, but to the one who believes. Are there any believers in the house this morning?